Alright, everybody. We are getting back on the train with the Warhammer Chud meltdown drama. It still hasn't stopped. This isn't going anywhere. The right is so fucking mad about their last bastion of anti-woke nerd media being, like, untouched and gatekept. You have to understand that for, like, a lot of these weirdo nerd types, a lot of them take pride in the fact that a lot of nerd media, at a certain point, was once extremely inaccessible. Like, think about how D&D used to be seen. Like, Dungeons & Dragons these days is, like, as normie as it gets in regards to nerd media. Like, nobody hasn't done one game of D&D, or at least, like, gone through the process of creating a character for D&D and filling out a character sheet. Like, every adjacent to nerd media person has at least filled out a D&D or a Pathfinder or a 5e character sheet, right? Like, everyone's done it once, right? Or gone further. And so these days, no one thinks of D&D as like niche nerd media or inaccessible nerd media. Warhammer, though, holy fuck. Now, I've played a game of Warhammer. Not even a game, actually. I played like maybe what could be like a tenth of a game of Warhammer at like a casino once when they were doing a game game convention there, and they had like tables set out with Warhammer battles, and I joined one. And it is very slow-paced. Granted, I was learning, but still, very slow-paced, very long sessions. Man, I get it. I get it, okay? It's a lot. It's a lot. There's a lot to it, and it is genuinely, like, currently, or I guess for a while, took the old position of D&D, or, like, Might and Magic, or Might and Magic's a game, I think Magic the Gathering, as, like, niche nerd media. Like, D&D got normified and everybody likes it now. Magic the Gathering, the same thing happened to that. Everybody knows Magic the Gathering now. But Warhammer, like, my mom knows what Magic the Gathering is. My mom knows what D&D is. But up until that recent South Park episode about Warhammer, if I asked my mom if she knew what Warhammer 40k was, she would have no fucking clue. And likely the same case is for many of, like, your parents, right? Like, that is the level of niche Warhammer still inhabited, while still being broadly known within the nerd sphere, but it was very unapproachable. Though recently, that started to change a lot, because Warhammer isn't just a tabletop game, Warhammer is a universe. Warhammer is books, video games, tabletop games, art, just painting shit, drawing shit, like, just being into the lore, watching lore videos. Like, Warhammer is not just a game anymore, or a tabletop. It is a universe of multimedia storytelling and entertainment. And so, with so much accessibility being brought into the Warhammer universe now, where literally anybody can get into it, the right is starting to realize that this thing that they attach themselves to as being like, we are the true nerds who are gatekeeping, like, this last bastion of anti-woke, non-normified, because they associate wokeness with something being normie, non-normified nerd media. They also like to associate, like, D&D and, like, other nerd media getting more popular with, like, particularly with women, with, the content getting worse or dumbed down. Because they like to claim that the media has to be dumbed down for, like, women to enjoy it, for example. Anyway, recently, a joke 4chan post was made. A, like, obviously joke 4chan post. And the right, the, like, anti-woke ChudHammer types on the right have jumped on it and taken it 100% seriously. You may understand why up until the last line of this 4chan post claiming to leak information about the upcoming Amazon Warhammer show. Female custodies are only going to be mentioned in the codex. No new sculpts or characters after the fact. Social media department jumped the gun and tried to put out fires with the wrong hose. Intent is to push female custodies character in Amazon show without it breaking lore, because Amazon execs wanted a woman in power, armor, and wouldn't settle for SOB. People involved in the show are pissed because they've been moved ahead on Eisenhorn, or they've been moving ahead on Eisenhorn. Talks of inserting said female custodies into Eisenhorn's story, with Cavill threatening to walk away from the small project. So they're claiming that they have inside info that Henry Cavill is threatening to walk away from the project because of the female custodies thing, which is being done. SOB is Sisters of Battle. I know what the Sisters of Battle are. Yes, those were the original, like, oh, but you don't want female custodies or like, we don't need more female representation in the Imperium. We've already got the Sisters of Battle. They're the female faction of warriors within the Imperium. It's like, okay, but like that. Then you admit that it is possible for in the Warhammer universe for women to fight for the Imperium. You admit that now. Then, so why is it a problem for there to be female custodies? Like, in lore, where does it say that is impossible? I've yet to see a single Warhammer conservative fan show me, like, where it says that there is some augmentation thing about being a custodes that women can't do. Like, maybe, actually, the custodes have, like, pipes that go straight from their balls into their brains, so they have a non-stop flow of testosterone going straight into their brains, sending them to a non-stop, like, hyper masculinity-fueled, like, rush of testosterone at all times. Like, that sounds like some Warhammer shit. But if that was the case, maybe I'd understand why cis women couldn't be like, in the fucking custodes. But there's nothing like that as far as I know. I don't know if there's any, like, testosterone ball tubes that go straight to your brain and constantly pump you full of testosterone. Sounds like CBT? Well, I mean, being anything in the Imperium of Man is CBT. Let's be real. Like, your cock and balls aren't going to be unscathed for long as, like, a member of the Imperium's military. Like, something's gonna happen to him one way or the other. It's not gonna be pretty. Yeah, okay, anyway. Blah, blah, blah. Back to it. Small stock drop today, but Games Workshop figures it can ride it out if it stays mum on the subject. They really need better social media employees. Cavill will be in an article due to heading to Games Workshop to work on the new series this week or next. If he leaves, it'll be a noticeable hit to the share price, meaning the show is dead. Good ending. Or Amazon is calling the shots. Bad ending. Not Black Chagorians, but similar scenario. Oh my god, they're so mad. You can trust me. My dad works at Nintendo. Now, the fact they end it with "you can trust me, my dad works at Nintendo" is a pretty strong suggestion that this post is probably bullshit. Like, you know, it's a 4chan post, the place where there have been like a million false leaks of a billion things, and like 2 real leaks ever for something. Like, I can think of 2 things that were actually leaked on 4chan. The original screenshots for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, or not Odyssey, Origins. That was originally leaked on 4chan, like a year before it was announced, to be fair. And then there was like some other thing that leaked onto 4chan. But like, covering game 4chan leaks in particular is like the most low respect content you can do, because it's the most unreliable source ever. It's literally anonymous. Like, that's the whole point, is that it's anonymous posting and you can lie about shit and there's no name to tie that lie to be embarrassed about socially. But you can trust me, my dad works at Nintendo. They took this seriously, dude. They all proceeded to make their videos. Custodes added because of Amazon? Henry Cavill may walk. Mass exodus as fans reject Warhammer 40k's new woke age. 40k has fallen, billions must be purged. Gene seed is stored in the balls. Femme custodes and its consequences. Yeah, like, the gene seed thing doesn't even explain it, though. That's the thing. Like I said, they've yet to explain to me how there can't be female custodes. Also, in response to this, Grums, literally his response to this is, the mask slipped, they want you dead, no, I'm not exaggerating. That's his response to the female custodes being announced. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Oh, and then, of course, I guess a final little meme here. What are the most divorced things Glinner has ever done? Sign up to my OnlyFans only to delete it a couple hours later after he realized I could see his username and he had just outed himself as a chaser, allegedly. Good memes. Good fucking memes. Grums is projecting hard. True. Anyway, not really a Grums and Glinner related segment, but you guys get where I'm coming from here. The funny thing as well is a lot of these videos that talk about this stuff, you'll notice they all copy the Quartering's thumbnail style, where it's like they find, like, because they don't have any skills in Photoshop, or their editors don't, they do the most lazy, theoretical way of making a thumbnail, which is finding an image, placing it, and instead of finding a way to, like, organize the thumbnail in, like, an artistically cohesive way, they throw this thumbnail together in 5 seconds. They take base Warhammer art with, like, and then they place it down with, like, a black bar on the side, and they put white on black with red highlight. It's the same type of thumbnails No Bullshit used to do as well. No Bullshit kind of started this type of thumbnail meta for right-wing content, if you remember back in the day, and the Quartering started doing it, and now they're all doing it. And so if you look up Amazon Warhammer leaks and scroll down, every thumbnail looks the same. Like, you'll see a few unique thumbnails like what I've shown you, but they'll all have on the left side of the screen a black, column where they put white on black with red highlight text as, like, the side. They all copy that shit. The female custodian in the thumbnail looks AI generated. Oh yeah, many of these people use AI art for their thumbnails. Yeah, this probably is AI generated, to be honest with you. This probably isn't even real art. But yeah, the right loves using AI's art for their thumbnails. And speaking of right-wing content creators who've jumped onto the grift, we've got this YouTuber who has uploaded just an insane amount about just the most stupid shit in the last few days. This is Vera Dark Titan Media, and I can already see how well she is playing to the right-wing grift already. For those of you guys that don't remember, one of the, like, 2019 to 2020 era culture war things that these grifters would talk about is the erasure of redheads. So, like, the conservative right sees redheaded white women as, like, a sort of representation of what they're fighting for, and, like, brown women as a representation of what they're fighting against, replacing redheaded women. So this woman has, like, if you can't already tell, fake red hair. Oh, man. Oh, man. She knows the audience she's playing to, dude. She knows. She knows. Okay, I've never watched a single video from this woman before. I don't even know what she sounds like. I'm imagining that I'm in for some, like, real pick-me shit here, though. Let's see it. So all these people fell for the "trust me, my dad works at Nintendo" post, and they've all made their videos off of it because they're grifters and they don't care about the truth or any level of, like, trust that their fans could have in them telling the truth. So, yeah, let's hear what she has to say. She's British? Uh-oh.
Games Workshop is embroiled in controversy.
Oh, thank God she's not. Oh, holy fuck. I was worried she was going to be British for a second there. You scared me, Beth.
Right now because of the female custodian retcons, but a new leak has surfaced that claims Amazon actually forced them to put female custodians into...
A new leak has surfaced. You know what's really funny? Does anybody have the clip of the Quartering talking about this, and he doesn't know how to pronounce any of the factions in Warhammer? He pronounces them the Custodies, or the Custodes, or something like that. And then it goes on to say he doesn't know how to pronounce any of them. Like, he just admits he's a fake Warhammer fan. Like, he doesn't actually fucking believe. He doesn't... None of these people care about any of this shit. If they actually did, they wouldn't gatekeep it. When in the fucking world have you ever been into a piece of media and you thought, people are starting to get interested in the piece of media that I like? I gotta stop this. Yeah, he calls them the Adaptus Custodes, Adaptus Custodes or something. Yeah, it's, like, ridiculous. It was actually hilarious. Yeah, who's the tourist now?
To the lore before the series films because they
found it. Oh,
go figure. Look.
Oh, are you guys ready to cringe?
Actually has over the game. Games Workshop. I think Sargon 2 for a little while. I had a lot of fun with that. Skaven for the win. But anyway, in a development that can only be described as massively insulting to the intelligence of their player base, Warhammer 40K developer game
Bounding in the Comics is like an alt-right forum for nerd media, by the way, for those who don't know. A lot of like quartering videos or any content from these grifter types will just be reading an article from Bounding into Comics. It's a little bit like, do you remember the, before this, it was this site called Some Angry Gamer? And the whole like point, like I remember we famously read the Some Angry Gamer article about how angry they were about miscegenation being promoted in like She-Ra. And that was one of the, like, because the quartering had promoted and, like, shouted out the article. Like, back in 2019, the quartering shouted out an article by Some Angry Gamer about how She-Ra is bad for supporting and encouraging mixed race relations. So, like, this site's just the new Some Angry Gamer. It's just a far-right site that kind of puts itself forward as just nerd media shit, you know?
Games Workshop has taken to claiming that despite years of official canonical evidence to the contrary, the game's all-male Adeptus Custodes faction...
There you go. The Adeptus Custodes. There you guys go. Don't you guys love the Adeptus Custodes? They're your favorites, right? Yeah, like, they're the most steadfast defenders of the Emperor. They guard the leader of the Empyreum of Mon.
They wanted it, and that Henry Cavill is threatening to walk away.
Dude, how can these people claim that the people on the left are tourists? How? How? These people don't know shit about this stuff. They're literally making rage bait videos off of a fake 4chan post that ends in, trust me guys, my dad works at Nintendo. Okay? It is an anonymous 4chan post. These people are so shameless and need something to make like their next grift slop video off of. They'll believe a anonymous 4chan post is a real leak without a hint, without a single hint of critical thinking. You know what this reminds me of? A lot of the right-wing like push, ironically, has been against shows produced by Amazon. Have you noticed that? Have you guys seen a single project that has been given a fair chance by people that Amazon produce that's an adaptation of something end up being bad, actually? Like Fallout, Invincible, fucking The Boys. Like, they're pretty much, like, just banger after banger when it comes to Amazon's stuff. Has-Been Hotel got canceled? No shot. That's got to be a troll. I imagine many people would be in favor of that. Or I guess, do you mean, like, canceled by people? I suppose, maybe. But, like, Has-Been Hotel was never, like, vying for that group, right? Rings of Power, I think, is a really good example of what these people are trying to do here. Who remembers Rings of Power? Many of you guys probably just assume it's bad, or maybe you have, like, a negative connotation of it. I did not have a positive opinion of Rings of Power before I saw it. I'm going to be honest with you guys. When I heard it was being made, I remember feeling actual anger at the idea of it being made. Because when it was first announced, it was announced as something that it wasn't really. It was announced as some sort of, like, sequel or remake or take on Lord of the Rings. It was just described vaguely as a Amazon's Lord of the Rings. And that was so vague that it gave a lot of wiggle room for people to assume the worst. And what it ended up being in reality was an adaptation of the appendices of Return of the King, the parts of it that cover the events that kind of coincide with the Silmarillion and the War of Wrath and the aftermath and everything. And they have full licensing and adaptions for the appendices of the Return of the King, and they adapt it. And while a lot of the stuff that's like core to that story isn't there or gets changed up in some ways, not greatly, but in some ways that might bother the most hardcore Tolkien fans who can't handle any changes whatsoever. What I found was it basically did the exact same thing that Peter Jackson's movies did. I've seen it, was not impressed. That I genuinely get upset with people who try to argue against this point because the right started their campaign against the show from day one, and they love that people agree with them on this, but not for the political reasons. They love it. So I watched the show convinced of so many things I heard about it from like people shit talking it before it came out. One of the things I remember hearing was that they were going to try to copy Game of Thrones and it was going to be full of sex scenes. There's not even a single sex scene in the entire show. I think there might be one scene where two characters kiss. But I honestly don't even remember at that point. There were no sex scenes or nudity in the show, but there were claims that was going to be in the show before it came out. There was that famous tweet that got like millions of likes where it was showing the Entertainment Weekly advertisement for the Amazon Lord of the Rings show, Rings of Power. And it's like the panning black void with like the characters there. And they posted it with like the Entertainment Weekly bit cropped out and said, this is the leaked intro for the show. It looks like some cheap like reality, like daytime TV drama. And people like in the millions fell for it. And it was really interesting that when I actually went to watch it, like I had no intention of watching it until I found out that it was coming out like in 5 minutes. Like I saw a tweet that was like, Rings of Power premieres in 5 minutes. And I was like, well, I got nothing to do tonight. All right, I'll watch it. Fuck it. Let's see. Like, and I've heard so much negative shit about this, so many like things about this that are negative and bad. I'm ready to watch it myself, though. It's actually coming out now. Let's see this show with our own eyes. And I watched the first 2 episodes they released on day 1, and I was fucking hooked. I have grown up on Lord of the Rings. I have read The Silmarillion. I have read every Lord of the Rings book, and I have read The Hobbit, especially countless times. The Hobbit is my go-to fucking like quick light read. And I found myself enamored. I felt myself being brought back to Middle-earth in a way I had not felt in a long time. The closest I could say I felt was watching the Hobbit movies when they came out when I was like 14, 15, 16, around then. And even then it was kind of not as good because they leaned so much into CGI that like it looked and felt different than the Lord of the Rings movies and how they presented Middle-earth. This show presented Middle-earth how Peter Jackson presented Middle-earth in the Lord of the Rings movies. It doesn't feel like that hyper CGI'd fake Middle-earth we got in the Hobbit movies. It feels like that practical, real Middle-earth we got in the Lord of the Rings. That was my first thing I noticed and had me go like, okay, hold on. All right, well, what do we got here? Hold on, let's see what we got here. And I very quickly found that what they're working with what they're working with, they are doing some great shit. Yeah, The Hobbit was mid, overuse of CGI and the story pacing is severe. Yeah, they added too much to the story for The Hobbit. They added too much. Like, The Hobbit was a very light read, you know? It did not need to be a trilogy, right? It could have just been one nice, dense movie. Or they could have, I guess, made it 2 movies and just not cut out certain things, because there were, ironically, things they did cut out, but they replaced it with... Yeah, I'm not getting into it. Regardless, The Rings of Power, for whatever complaints you might have if you're like a hyper Tolkien fan or a super nitpicky like film person like Bojuka and Chad is, if you are just somebody who sat down and watched the Lord of the Rings and you really like it and you like the universe and you find it entertaining and you like that world, you will like Rings of Power. The show's not like badly written, the show's not poorly made, and yet when you watch the coverage that these figures had about Rings of Power, it was ranging from everything from here's a bunch of made-up shit about the show that would make it bad, to here's how the show disrespects Tolkien by being woke. And then at the same time, House of the Dragon came out, and all the right-wingers went from calling House of the Dragon woke for having black characters in it to saying it's the anti-woke show competing with Rings of Power. And despite the fact that Rings of Power was Amazon's #1 show, is one of Amazon's #1 shows ever in terms of viewership and is already renewed for season 2, if you listen to what people online tell you, the show failed and didn't and is like on its way out, when it's just not true. I feel like that particular show got hit with like the most overwhelming wave of like right-wing grifter hate before it ever came out, and poisoned the well before anybody could give it like a good chance. And I had every reason to dislike it, and I enjoyed it. I don't know what else to say other than it was fun. It felt like, especially, that it kept the like the vibe of Tolkien, you know? And it really upsets me that Bojuka, for example, who said it's bad, had to like say there's a YouTuber who explains why it's bad really well. And it's like, okay. But if you don't get your like opinions on film from a YouTuber though, and you make them up on your own because you have your own opinions, I think you might find that you actually like it and it's not really that bad. You might actually think it's kind of good. And I've noticed that they've tried to push this with every new Amazon show because they see Amazon as woke. A good example, obviously, is like Hazbin Hotel, right? Like they've tried to cancel Hazbin Hotel because, one, it's like obviously quite woke, but also it's quite it's also made by Amazon. And like these Amazon video shows, they're like desperate to try to claim are woke, but also they try to claim The Boys isn't woke because Homelander's the hero. They have no consistency in their messaging, but right now they seem to have this particular hard-on for Amazon and Disney. You know? And it's like, I have no love in my heart for Amazon, but I don't know. I saw some stats saying that the Rings of Power viewership went from 100 million to at least 37 to 38 million for its finale. That would definitely be unfortunate. I don't know how. The show's just great. I keep having people tell me they don't like it, and it's not because of minorities in it. And it's like, but how? I watched it with several friend groups, and I kept like saying like, so yeah, this show is like universally hated online. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, like universally hated. Everything about it is hated. They have no... They like, if you ask someone on the internet, they can't give you a single good thing they liked about this show. And every friend I showed to is like, what? Why? It's like, well, there was a massive right-wing hate brigade against the show before it ever came out, but the people who say they didn't like it are also left-leaning and claim it's not because of that. So you tell me. I genuinely couldn't tell you why they hate the show so much. Everything I hear from them that isn't about minorities is always like the biggest nitpick I've ever seen in my life. One of the go-to ones was the claim that if you paused a scene for 5 seconds of a big crowd, if you look close enough, you can see that some of the people in the crowd are actually copied. Like if you look in the crowd, you can see the same person in the crowd, like at once if you pause it. And it's like, yeah, man, like this is really a sign of a badly put together show. If you can notice two of the same people in the crowd in a single frame of a shot, you've owned this show. It's unwatchable, you know? It's like, okay. I feel like that entire thing that I've described to you with Rings of Power is what they are desperately trying to do to this Warhammer show now. Now that they're dropping Warhammer, I guarantee you all that what they're going to try to do is cancel this show before it ever comes out. We're going to hear more and more claims like this about how it's going to go woke, about how the Warhammer show is like abandoning everything that makes Warhammer Warhammer. You're going to hear everything ranging from the show is woke to the show is just not going to be a good representation of Warhammer, and it's going to be repeated so much from false leaks, fake rumors, and by the time the show comes out, I guarantee you, I'm willing to bet when the Warhammer show comes out, it doesn't matter how good it is, the response will be overwhelmingly negative because the well will be so poisoned by these people. I'm willing to bet that they will have successfully poisoned the well about this show before it comes out, that it'll get the Rings of Power treatment no matter how good it is. Because Rings of Power was objectively good media, and yet it convinced even people on the left that it's bad with like the well poisoning. Like it poisoned the well that successfully bad. I bet they're going to be able to do that with this Warhammer show too. But yeah, I mean, like this is literally just grift slop. Does she actually acknowledge the bottom line at any point? I wonder.
I personally think it's the second, judging by how his Witcher co-stars called him like a Witcher Bible on set and said he was constantly walking around with the books trying to make them.
Yeah, for those that don't know, the right has claimed Henry Cavill. Like Henry Cavill's sort of like the figurehead of right-wing nerd media right now because he's like a big muscle guy and he likes nerd stuff and gaming. And so when he was on set for The Witcher, he was supposedly like the Witcher lore guy, and they like have made this narrative that the creators of the show found his dedication to the lore and the games and the books toxic. They found it to be toxic gamer behavior, and thus they fired him because he was being a toxic gamer, is sort of the narrative. And he's really done nothing to push against that narrative, to be fair. So it's kind of understandable that, like, yeah, Balth in chat says I'm a professional Henry Cavill hater. Yeah, Henry Cavill for, like, the last 2 years has been, like, online claimed by the right and used as, like, the catalyst to harass a bunch of the cast of the Witcher show that he's now left. And he's done nothing to speak out against it. So there are a lot of people that are like, is Henry Cavill aware of, like, what people are saying and doing with his name and he doesn't mind? Because, like, these people that are harassing, like, the actresses working on the Witcher show are all doing so in the name of Henry Cavill. You know, he hasn't said a thing about it. It just seems weird. Like, if someone's harassing your co-star, like, if like, crowds of your fans are harassing your co-star from a previous project and you don't say anything about it, it just seems weird. Like, for example, Bryan Cranston has spoken many times about the harassment that, what's her name? Fuck, why can't I remember her name right now? It's the actress who plays Skylar in, Breaking Bad. Anna Gunn, thank you. Yeah, he's talked a lot of times about how Anna Gunn was just getting massive amounts of unwarranted harassment and, like, said, like, don't do this. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, it just seems really weird that he hasn't done that, so I guess I get where people are coming from. This woman, I'm going to be honest, is very uninteresting and doesn't really give off the vibe
rallied his fans to filming a retcon, but if Amazon or Hammer...
I just don't even care about watching her segment because it's talking about a fake 4chan leak. Does she ever scroll down enough to show the "my dad works at Nintendo" bit? Okay, let's see.
And there would be plenty of people who were initially excited who would say, enough is enough, I'm not going to support it. And even if the show was to still go ahead, there may be people who might not support it at all now because of the, lore changes. And it's just such a sad situation to see, right? Because we all wanted to support Henry Cavill after he was, leaving The Witcher, and he faced so many problems with his role as Superman. We really wanted a project to be able to support him through, but it sounds like that may not be the case anymore. It also says that Cavill will be in an article due to heading to Games Workshop to work on the new series this week or next. If he leaves, it'll be noticeable hit to the share price, meaning the show is dead, good ending, or Amazon is calling the shots. So it sounds like in the next few weeks, we will know for certain if they are proceeding with this series or if they have decided enough is enough. We're not going to go forward with it and we're not going to continue to develop it. But obviously, over the past couple of days, Games Workshop has been embroiled in controversy. I mean, even the mainstream media.
Oh my god, she doesn't read the "trust me, my dad works at Nintendo" bit. She doesn't even read that bit, because how do you respond to that? How do you, like, say, oh, I'm sure he's just joking here, he's totally legit, and not, like, adding at the end of his 4chan post, his fake effort post, by the way, this is all a meme. You know that's, like, a trend on 4chan, right? To post, like, a multi-paragraph long effort post that the last sentence of indicates was a joke, and the troll is that you read the entire effort post only to find out it was all bullshit when you finish it. That's literally a long-standing cultural trend of trolling on 4chan that people do for shitposts. And they fell for one and are now claiming it's a legitimate leak. Absolutely fucking hilarious. These people are genuinely pathetic, and there's a reason why they don't have a very long lifespan individually as content creators online. The Quartering has honestly lasted longer than I would ever expect him to, considering how many times he's made a fool of himself. And how, like, lacking in any unique factors his content is. Like, he's not charismatic, he's not, like, fun to watch or interesting or unique in his takes. He's actually uniquely lazy and uninformed for a conservative pundit, and yet he is the most popular. It's like, within the realm of conservatism, it almost seems like the lower effort your content is, the more successful it'll be. Like, the more production value you put in, the worse you are hurting yourself, because the right does not care about production value in the content they watch. They just want a non-stop, high-volume flood of politically affirming videos that they can listen to while they play their gooner, conservative, anti-woke game. What's it called? Stellar Blade or whatever? Yeah. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like. It really helps the channel a lot. Every single thumbs up goes a real long way in helping the channel, so I really do appreciate it to every single one of you who goes so far as to do that. And of course, don't forget, if you want to see more from me, you can subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications. And of course, if you want to support me financially, You can donate, subscribe, or gift a sub on my website, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, or Patreon. You can also buy merch, and you can join my fan Discord, where we do watch parties, call-in streams, fan events of all kinds. It's just a cool community. We have all sorts of events in that community. It's a great time. Consider joining. I'd hope to see you guys there. And of course, don't forget to comment down below. I'm curious to hear what you guys think of this whole thing. Do you think the leak is real? Do you think these people are just fucking stupid? I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Anyway, with all that said, thank you so much for watching this segment, and have a good one.